Gentlemen, welcome to Leeds this evening for the first of the Small Business Saturday UK Inspire series. There may be a slight disturbance as other people enter the room. For those of you that are watching this from home, or in your office or in your business, wherever you are, we're actually in the equivalent of something like Hogwarts. It feels like we're surrounded by books. Here we are at Leeds Library, but they are very long tiled floors and it's a very difficult place to find. So let's start with a bit of social media housekeeping, I think, this evening. I've been having a discussion with Catherine from Small Business Saturday just to establish what the Twitter hashtag's going to be. So let's get that out there and get that started as we go on. The Twitter hashtag for Small Business Saturday UK will be hashtag SmallBizSatUK. Not to be confused with everything else. We don't want the lovely Theo Pafitis coming at us using SBS or any confusion like that, although we're all working together to help make small business more visible, which is absolutely great. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Tina Boden. I am a micro-business specialist, independent business ambassador. I specialise in strategy, networking, collaboration, speaking, writing, and I give 20% of my time for free to good causes and charities across the UK. I'm here tonight to talk about why collaboration is key. Collaboration is key for small businesses, and I'm going to talk about the different ways that we can collaborate. It's absolutely fabulous that we're here in Leeds kick-starting this event. We're in the north, and I am so proud that I am actually here in my home county of Yorkshire. I do feel at this stage I maybe ought to confess I was actually born at the other side of the hill. For those of you that are not sure where that is, that's Lancashire. No, it's not a dark place, it's absolutely brilliant. Whatever people in Yorkshire think, they don't have two heads. I recommend you get over there and actually find some small businesses to collaborate with at the other side of the hill. So we're here in Leeds, home to great many independent businesses. Only this year, when the Tour de France came, there was a great big campaign by Duke Studios to get out indie bikes, Leeds indie bikes. And for those of you that might have visited Leeds at that time, you will have seen all sorts of different transfers and windows. It was a great, great visual that connected with the Tour de France, which of course we were very proud to have in the Yorkshire region in July. There are still some yellow bikes sticking around. Leeds, home to so many different opportunities. Leeds City Council actually recommended about 18 months ago to me that they housed about 15,000 invisible businesses. Interestingly, an invisible business is one that falls below the government measuring stick. An invisible business isn't registered for VAT, it doesn't employ staff, and it's not a limited company. So out there in Leeds are 15,000 business owners that aren't actually appearing on government statistics. In North Yorkshire, the East Riding of Yorkshire and York, there are around 30,000 invisible businesses. Those that are out there, once again, that are trading from home, trading from their kitchen table, trading from their garden shed, all the different places that these businesses are operating. And actually in rural parts of the counties of North Yorkshire, West Yorkshire, the East Riding of Yorkshire and South Yorkshire, there are all sorts of businesses starting up, keeping going, that can collaborate with each other. So, I suppose also at this point maybe ought to mention Leeds United Football Club, but maybe not. If my husband was here, he would tell me it's the greatest football club in the world, and I actually believe the jury's out on that one, and I don't look like Gary Lineker. So yeah, we'll move on from football and we'll start to talk about what we're here for. When we start out in business, life can be very hard. It can be difficult to get going. It can be difficult to know who our customers are, looking at our competitors, seeing what they're doing, and it can actually be a really lonely place. But trust me, starting out is the sexy part of being in business. It's like going into a new relationship. It's like being in those early stages of a blossoming romance, where you go out with all your makeup on, and that's just the men. And you actually are so excited about the things that are around the corner. It's the keeping going stage of business that can be hard. That's when you start to slob around in front of each other in your pajamas and you really don't care whether you've done your hair or not. I recommend that when you're starting out, you look around the area, the community in where you live, and actually find others that are also starting out in business, that are working together is a great, sorry ladies and gentlemen, we just have a slight interlude where we have some more people coming in and taking food. Sorry, it's all right, we're letting them off. Anyway, so starting out in business, when you're starting out, look for other people that are doing the same as you. Those that are actually just maybe been trading for 6 months or 12 months, and find out from them what it is that they're doing. You may be able to work together. Look at your competitors. Competitors are a really interesting lot of people to collaborate with. Now, in my experience, competitors come in a couple of categories. Those that will, those that won't, and there's actually probably a third category, those that there's not even a hope in what's it of managing to do any business with. Put them to one side. Don't waste your effort in trying to collaborate with them at this stage. Your competitors are actually great people to cross-trade with at busy times. If you, for example, are a hairdresser and you have a very busy period, you have a regular customer, and you have a friend possibly that is also a hairdresser, why not recommend to this customer that can't be fitting in your salon that she goes to your friend and get your friends to do the same for you? Cross-trading, it's great. You hopefully won't lose that customer, or if you do lose that customer, you only lose him to a friend. So that's just one way of looking at it. I feel that actually if you are running a business, whether that's a small business, a micro business, an absolute one-man band, that actually unless you think about collaboration, you're going to lose out. Some of you may have seen the Toy Story movie where Woody is stood in front of all the toys and he recommends they get a moving buddy. I actually recommend that you get a small business buddy, whether that's to collaborate with, to keep you going, to become your mentor, whatever it is. So back to collaboration, looking at your competitors, looking at the ways you can work together. We move from our competitors, let's look at our neighbouring businesses, the ones that surround us in the area that we trade. And I'm actually looking at some people in the room here who I know are neighbours in business. And so what I'm going to say now might be really interesting. In business, when you are located in a certain high street, side street, wherever that may be, you don't always think about the business owners that are next door or across the road when you're buying that business. And actually, if one of those businesses changes hands, you're not even sure who's going to be arriving into the premises. What I recommend you do with the neighbouring businesses is you go out there, you put on a great big smile, and you actually get to know each other. Because to be honest, if you do that, if you get to know each other, if you put aside the 3 Ps, personality, politics, and perceptions, you may find that actually you can get on really well with each other. If you don't, what I suggest you do is paint on a great big smile, keep it there while you're trying to do things together, and when you get back behind your shop door, have a paddy and scream as much as you want. Because it is really important. You are going to attract far more customers if you can work together in your locality. You are going to get people to come to you in a far better way to be able to spread the word, to create a department store. Working with neighbouring businesses can help you create a department store in your town, in your community, in your little streets that you may be trading from where there is a lot of independent businesses. You can have the lighting department from the electrical shop. You can have the clothing department from the ladies' wear or the men's wear. You can have the food department, and obviously you can have the coffee shop. Who knows what departments you can have? You can offer far more than you could have in your standard store, and possibly even at the end of your street you can have a list of who those departments are, just like you would do if you went into a large department store like Debenhams. Other department stores are obviously available. So, although I wouldn't know, because of course back in January 2012 when I co-founded Enterprise Rockers, an organisation that works to make life better for micro businesses, I pledged to shop indie only, and I will be sharing my Indie 25er bracelets today. I pledge to shop indie only, so I shop with independent businesses wherever I can, and do about 90% of my shopping with independent businesses. So I realise for some that's quite hard and they don't see that they can do it, but actually if you pledge to just spend 25% of your shopping budget with independent businesses, that makes a huge difference. That is something that we can encourage as small businesses, whether we're on the high street, whether we're above the high street, whether we're trading from our kitchen table, we can encourage people to actually spend 25% of their shopping budget with independent businesses. So that brings me on to collaborating with our customers. Anybody think I've planned this? So, collaboration with our customers. Customers are the best form of advertising that we can have as long as we keep them happy. Now, I can show you that you will not keep every customer happy all of the time. I have been in business for over 25 years now in a number of different sectors: property lettings and management, retail, hospitality, property development, and I have had unhappy customers. It's not necessarily the fact that they're unhappy, it's actually how you deal with them and how you make them feel at the end of it. But it's important that you work with them. It's important that you understand what your customers want, especially if you're located in quite a small market town or a rural location where your customers are low in number and you have to attract them. It's really important that they go away and say, oh, I went to the deli today and I said to them 3 weeks ago that I wanted some stinky blue cheese, and when I got there today they bought some stinky blue cheese just for me, and it was brilliant, and oh, they're so good, they give a great customer service, and far more people will then go in and purchase from that business. What we need to understand with that is actually, you know, if we've got a vibrant high street, if we've got a vibrant community, that leads us to needing solicitors, lawyers, website designers, we need plumbers, we need electricians, we need all these different people to actually work together. That brings you back to collaborating with your neighbouring businesses. And actually, if the plumber then goes to his one of his customers, and his customer is saying, oh, look, the washing machine's just broken down, it's really not a great time for me. And he said, oh, well, I can highly recommend the electrician on the high street. He's got a great deal on washing machines. And all of a sudden, everybody is cross-referring to each other and making great opportunities in this big department store that we've got going on in the locations. So, we've covered customers. keeping them sweet, even in difficult times. We've covered collaborating with competitors and how we can do that, and our neighbouring businesses. I suppose one other area that we need to look at is trade organisations. Many of you will actually be members of trade organisations, and you pay your membership fee. They send you a nice shiny pack with all the stuff in that they can do for you. You pick it up, you look at it, because it's really busy time that it's appeared and you don't quite know whether you're going to find time to read all that paperwork that they've sent you. But actually what I suggest you do is think about why you have joined that trade organisation. What benefit is that trade organisation going to bring to you? And think about how you can collaborate with them. What can you actually work with them on to make things better for you? How can you feed back information to them so that actually what you're wanting from that trade organisation may be something that other people want in other parts of the country, even other parts of the world, depending on what they're doing. And actually, you start to work together. You start to ask them questions. You start to understand what they can offer you a little bit more, rather than getting that pack from them, stuffing it at the bottom of your filing cabinet and never looking at it again until they send you a reminder the following year and tell you that they want another lot of membership money that you then think isn't worth it. But actually, have you worked with them? Have you collaborated with them? Have you got the best out of them, and have you given the best to them for the information that you think you can get back in return? You also need to look at the local councils and your councillors and how it may be a good idea to collaborate with them. I know for some of you it will be like sleeping with the enemy. Sorry, small cough. I find myself often in quite a difficult position in the work that I do. I never dreamt when I started out running my first business, the property lettings and management business with my mum at the age of 21, that I would become so passionate about the impact of micro-business on economies, not just community economy, not just local economy or regional, but national and international economies. And that work has brought me to working with people, organisations that I never ever dreamt that I would end up working with. And I'm not known for keeping quiet. I'm not known for backing down. And I am passionate about independent business and micro business, as I've already said. Now, I believe unless you've run a business and you've been there, you've started it up, you've grown it, you know, you've maybe even got to the stage where that business hasn't worked and you've got to pick yourself up, dust yourself off. Don't see it as a failure, because it's not, it's a learning curve. I mean, if I'd have considered after my first business that went wrong that I wasn't going to run another businesses, I'd now be 3 businesses less than I had been before. So, but it's often very difficult to speak to the public sector organisations and get them to understand what it is that they can do to help you. It's often very difficult to go to your local councillor. Excuse me, I will just allow the silence to pass. It's often very difficult to go to your local councillor, and unless they have run a business, make them understand what you want from your business. This brings me back to collaborating with neighbourhood businesses. One lone voice in the wilderness is very hard to be heard. But actually, if a number of you together want the same things, you become what we refer to as rockers as the power of plenty. You are allowed a voice. That collaboration brings strength in numbers. It allows you to go and say, This is what we would like to see. This is why we would like this doing with our road, with our market town, with our local area of trading that we have. It might not just be that you're collaborating with neighbouring businesses in that town, but there may be people within the same borough, within the same council area that have the same issues. Talk to them. Social media is an absolutely fabulous way of being able to speak to people that you would have never ever managed to get in touch with before. I have people in this room here that I wouldn't have met without the power of Twitter. Twitter is a marvellous tool. In fact, I think that part of my involvement with Small Business Saturday is thanks to Twitter. I have developed some amazing business relationships through Twitter. If you've got a problem, if you want to find other people that are actually having a similar problem in a same area or a different area, then go out there on social media and see what you can do and see who you can find. Because that will help you to get the voice heard. Look at the power of what's happening with the high street. Look at what's happening with the shop local, shop indie. You know, that's an amazing strength. Even though there are certain larger supermarkets who may have adopted that, be proud as independent businesses that actually that has given them something to be worried about. Because yes, that is part of the thing that's happening, I believe. The independent businesses that are collaborating, that are coming together, that are showing a strength, are actually showing those out there, the multiples and the larger organisations, the larger corporates, what power there is in the little guys. I mean, at 5'3", I can say, you know, I'm a little gal, but I'm an action woman, as you can see from my t-shirt. So collaboration with the neighbouring businesses, whether that's locally or on a much wider scale, is important. People ask me, and I know this is a question that has been asked today on Twitter from Aldermore Bank, what would I look for when collaborating? Well, as I've already mentioned, I would ignore the 3 Ps, personality, politics, perceptions, and I would actually look for some common ground. I would look for a 4th P, and that 4th P is passion. Because if you want to collaborate with somebody successfully, you have to have the same passion. That may be passion for a place, it may be passion for a product, it may be passion for a service. Collaborating with somebody that has the same passion as you gives you a common ground to grow. It's a bit like developing a friendship. And remember, when you do collaborate with somebody, if you do it once and it doesn't work, then that's fine. Agree with them that it's maybe something that hasn't worked, take a step back. But actually, as a group of individual business owners collaborating, if you look at opportunities that are out there, you actually can make yourselves not only a department store if you're in the retail business, but you can actually make yourselves something equivalent to a very large corporate organisation if you're in the service industry, for example. If you're a graphic designer, if you're a website designer, if you're in PR and marketing, then come together. You can be the equivalent of a large corporate organisation with different departments that can actually deliver something with great strength, but with passion. Because at the end of the day, each of you owns your own business. You have to make sure that that business is working so that you can get paid. Because without that passion to drive that business forward, you're not in a position to actually engage with customers. Because if you haven't got the passion for the business, if you haven't got the passion for what it is that you're doing, then actually nobody else will have. It doesn't matter whether you have a partner in that business or whether you're running it on your own. You will all have a passion for different reasons. And if that passion doesn't come out, when you're serving your customers, whether you're on the phone, whether you're at the other side of a website, you have to tell the story. You have to share that passion for people to want to come to you, for people to want to buy from you, for people to want to collaborate with you. You have got to give off the passion for them wanting to do that. So I think it's really important that to create the collaborative working that enables people to be a larger entity whilst all coming together. It's so vital that we show our passion, that we actually are constantly looking at how we are happy with our business. And I know that it's hard some days to get out of bed. Unfortunately, we're not in a position where we can just pop to the corner shop, buy a box of motivation tips and milk on it and say, woohoo, I'm motivated today, let's all get out there and it'll be great. When you look at organisations, when you look at different programmes, when you look at different campaigns that are actually working to raise the profile of small and independent businesses, like Small Business Saturday is, it is key that you collaborate together to make that a much bigger opportunity for everybody. I have already said one lone voice in the wilderness because it is one of my favourite sayings. You know, if you are trying to shout as an individual business, it's a little bit like being stood next to Gulliver in Lilliput land when you're about this big and the big guy is up there and you're trying to chug at the bottom of his trousers and say, hello, is anybody listening? Something like Small Business Saturday UK gives you an opportunity to go out there and actually start to meet other businesses if you haven't already. This is a key opportunity for you to raise your profile on social media. Social media is a great form of free advertising, whether you're putting videos on YouTube, as we are, I believe, this evening, when I will be watching myself back and thinking, oh my goodness, did I really say that? Anyway, so going out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, look at what your customers are using. Look at what social media your customers are using. Start to ask them about it. Start to question, oh, do you use this Facebook, or do you use Twitter, or are you on LinkedIn? This is an opportunity for you to start collaborating with them as well. It's then an opportunity for you to meet other businesses, for you to promote hashtag Small Business UK, and before you know where you are, you're then in a position to go to the press and the media as a whole group of people once again and say to them, look what we're doing, look what we've got to offer in our great town, our great village, our great street. I mean, I was looking today at the Great British High Street Awards, and I noticed that Bishopthorpe Road in York has been shortlisted. Now, for any of you that live in Yorkshire and in York, where the Small Business Saturday bus tour will be arriving on the 18th of November, after it's been to Leeds on the 17th of November, and then it's going off into other parts of the country that we need not to worry about because they're not Yorkshire. Yes, the Bishopthorpe Road, for those of you that don't know Bishopthorpe Road, they're actually a whole group of independent businesses on a relatively long road in York. And they have done some amazing things collaborating with each other. They have formed a new community spirit that did exist, but now is much more high profile. It's great. It's become an amazing opportunity. Far more people know about Bishopthorpe Road that have probably lived in York for all their lives. People from outside York know about Bishopthorpe Road. It's the place to be. So it just shows with collaboration with your neighbouring businesses, with collaboration with your customers who are spreading the word, actually with collaboration with your competitors because I know for a fact that there is not just one coffee shop on Bishopthorpe Road. There is not just one hairdresser's. So they have put aside the 3 Ps and they are actually working together, and through the power of social media, they've managed to raise their profile in a great way. So I want to now take some questions from outside of this room, this lovely book-filled Harry Potter type room, and I want to take some questions from Twitter land, social media land, if there are some, and I'm going to ask Catherine to give me the first question.
So Gurpreet has asked you, can you recommend platforms to use for businesses to find collaborative partners?
So that's, can I recommend platforms to use for businesses to find collaborative partners? I think let's look at this in 2 ways. Let's look at this with collaboration online and offline. So let's just touch on networking and networking opportunities to develop collaboration here. So I am a massive networker. I am forever looking at opportunities to link people to other people. I never stop. My husband says I'm a nightmare. If we go somewhere and I meet somebody and then introducing them to somebody else and sending an email and saying, can I introduce you to this person because I think we could work well together. I actually think that networking offline can bring great opportunities for you to find collaborative partners. But what I do recommend is that you do not become obsessed with that. You need to understand, if you want to grow your business, or if you want to actually, you have something specific in mind for collaboration, you need to understand who it is that you want to collaborate with, not as an individual, but what their skills and abilities will need to be. And you then need to think about where they may be hanging out, because actually they may not be at your usual networking events, but they may be in some other place. They may be hanging out in the library, or they may be in the pub, or you just don't know. But you need to think about who the people are. I had an example of a gentleman a lot of years ago, and he was actually in Leeds, and he'd set up a business where he wanted to engage with people who were semi-retired. They were going to be his customers. And he rang me and he said, I've been working with a business advisor. And I said, oh yes. And he said, this business advisor keeps telling me to go to all these different networking events. And we all know the networking events that are out there. We have to get up at ridiculous o'clock in the morning, to go off for breakfast, to be sold services by all sorts of different people. And that was my idea of hell. Anyway. So he said, I've been to these, and the type of people that I want to network with, who I want for customers, so this is back to collaborating with your customers, he said, aren't there. So I said, right, well, think about where they are. Where do they hang out, these semi-retired people that you actually want to engage with? He said, well, a lot of them, I imagine, will be in the teaching profession or would be in the public sector. He wanted to do activity weekends. And he said, oh, they might go to the library, or they might go to the pub. And I said, well, go there then and stop going to all these other networking events, because actually what you're doing is wasting your time. So I recommend that you go out into your locality, however wide that may be, however wide you feel you need to spread your nets, to network offline. Online, I think there is a great opportunity to actually use the power of Facebook, of LinkedIn, of Twitter, to find, of YouTube even, because actually if you search and look at different people that you actually want to collaborate with, you can do a search and see who's out there. And actually don't be afraid of asking others that you know, that you find on LinkedIn, for example, when it says you are second removed from, it's like being a distant cousin. If you're second removed from somebody on LinkedIn, don't be afraid of asking that person who would link you to them to actually give you an introduction. You've got to go out there and be brave when you are running a small or micro business. You've got to be very positive in your approach. There's another P. This evening has been brought to you by the letter P. You have to be positive in your approach, because actually that's the only way that it's going to drive forward. My theory is you ask and somebody has two options. They can say yes or they can say no. Well, they might say maybe, but actually you want to drive them to a yes or a no, because a maybe is just a, oh well, maybe, and that's no good to anybody. So if they say no and they can't introduce you, then see if you can find somebody else. Or actually, don't be afraid if somebody's on Twitter to tweet them directly, because if you're really lucky, they may well come back to you. And I have done that on more than once, twice, 10 times of an occasion to get what I want. So as long as you don't become a stalker, then you're absolutely fine. Okay, do we have any other questions? I've just been talking to a gentleman in the audience this evening, and he runs a post office. And actually, I would just like to give the post office and the local pub as an example of how I believe collaboration could be a great thing in a community. As I say, I've become really passionate about micro business and independent businesses, and some of the people here know that from the work that we've done. But Nigel and I were just talking about the post office, and I think post office, and I know there's been some great research by the RSA around this, because I'm involved with something else with the RSA at the moment, but it's about the power of the post office and the power of the post office in a community. And a post office can become a great trading space. So can the local pub, and actually so can other businesses that are out there with a retail presence. If you've got a business that you're starting, you might be knitting woolly jumpers in Whitby or something, and you want to sell them, and you have no idea how on earth, apart from on Etsy or eBay or Folksy or any of the other platforms, you're going to do this. Do not be afraid of going into a business that has a link with yours in some way and saying, I've knit these jumpers, would it be possible for you to actually put them out and see what people have to say about them? Now, I believe that the post office is actually a great place for that to happen, because it would be an ideal opportunity as people are stood buying a first class stamp. They do still buy first class stamp, yes. I think it's a great opportunity for people to look to the rooms to be able to see what's going on. I think it keeps the community spirit alive. I think it gives people an opportunity to talk about different things that are going on. And like pubs, I am a retired publican's daughter, so I'm very passionate about the local pub and campaigning to keep the pubs alive. Again, I think that they're another great space. And actually, a pub, if a village or a rural community has lost its post office, a pub is maybe a great place for that post office to go to. And there's a good excuse. Sorry, I'm just popping out for a first class stamp. Oh, while I was there, I had to have a pan. So, yeah, I think, again, this is how we need to look. We need to look at collaboration in a much bigger way, in a much wider scale than just one or two people working together. But actually, if we start with one or two people working together, we can get into something far bigger. I did have a lady who actually, she was a milliner, and she might have been over the pool in Lancashire, and she was a milliner, and she came to me and she said, Tina, I want to open a shop. And I was quite concerned for her, to be honest, because I didn't feel that she had enough, I didn't feel that she had enough, Our overheads were going to be huge. And I said to her, why don't you go and speak to the florist nearby, if there is one? And she said, well, why the florist? And I said, well, actually, if people are getting married, they go to a florist to get their flowers, and it's quite often that if people are getting married, they want a hat. And I did realise that actually the atmosphere in the florist was probably not great for her hats, but that got her to thinking. And what she did do was she went off and she found somebody that she could take a space in that business. So she collaborated with them and they cross-promoted each other, and it all worked very well. So that was great.
Next question from Seeing Sticks, who want to know what are the most important things to ask a potential partner before you collaborate with them.
Okay, so I might have to repeat this more than once. So from Seeing Sticks, what are the
most important things to ask a potential partner before you collaborate with them?
Okay, what are the most important things to, I feel like a dating agency. What are the most important things to ask a potential partner before you collaborate with them? Okay, so this, to me, it's really important that you do make a list of what it is that you're wanting to achieve as part of that collaboration. And I appreciate that you don't always know exactly what you want to achieve. But usually if you're setting out with a collaboration, for finding somebody to collaborate with, you have a goal, you have a bigger picture plan. So I suggest that you make a list of 5 key things that you want to find out from them. And then you go along, you arrange to meet with them. It may be that you ask them the questions about the subject that you're interested in. So, for example, we want to make sure that our community really celebrates Small Business Saturday. So you need to ask them, are they interested in getting involved in Small Business Saturday UK? How do they feel about independent businesses? Do they have a commitment to making those businesses grow? And if they turn around to you and say, no, I'd rather start a shop at the local supermarket, then I suggest that maybe they're not the right person for you. As I said at the beginning, it is a bit like going into a new relationship with somebody. It's actually trying to build up that relationship without being too formal, without looking like you're at an interview, but actually sitting down over a cup of coffee and having a chat, but that you actually get the answers that you want. So the answers, 5 key questions, and get the answers to those questions. And if you're not happy with that at the end, say, it's been lovely to meet you, thank you very much. And don't be afraid to get up and walk away. But you can, you may never speak to them again. You can tweet them or send them a message on Facebook now again, and you move on to the next person. I hope that answered the question. If it didn't, then do feel free to tweet me at microbizgirl, and I will try my best to. I'm going to put hashtag small business UK after it.
Astute marketeers want to know, how can like-minded businesses collaborate to pitch for big contracts, bigger ones than they could by themselves?
Okay, so I talked about this a little bit. Like-minded businesses need to understand if they're bidding for bigger contracts, what that contract involves. So you need to ensure that you're fulfilling the criteria of that contract, and you need to then build up an understanding of the skill set that is needed to create that opportunity for that bigger contract. So if you're already working with, if you're already collaborating with businesses, my business, Only Me Here, works with associates. The clue is in the name, there is Only Me Here. I work to help people with strategy and organisational structure, but I have I used to say I have a little black book, and now I have a little white iPhone of people that I collaborate with, and that's the wonders of technology. And actually not to be afraid of just inviting those that you already work with along for that specific project. Don't be afraid, thinking you have to include people just for the sake of it because you said you were going to do a piece of work with them. Because what ends up happening is that you can end up not fulfilling what is needed for that tender or for that piece of work quoted. So make sure that you have the skill set that you need to fulfill the work that's required. And don't be afraid of admitting that you've all come together as individual businesses. You need to ensure that you have the correct insurance to do a piece of work, and if you're doing something like that. So you do need to make sure that you're covered, and it might be that you have to take something out as an umbrella. You have to put an umbrella over those businesses to be able to do that. But and organisations like the National Enterprise Network, who have some great business advisors, they will be able to help you with support to ensure that you do that correctly and you go out there and make sure you try and get that tender against the big boys.
And one last one from Twitter before we open it up is from Rebecca Craven, who wants to know, have you got any good case studies of rural communities coming together for Small Business Saturday? So in Yorkshire, for example.
Okay, have I got any great case studies? One thing, Small Business Saturday UK started last year, and I had to fight really hard to get the bus tour to come to Yorkshire. That's why this is amazing that we're kickstarting this Inspire series here in Leeds, and that the bus is not coming once, but twice to Yorkshire. So yes, so I have to say that the one thing that I find, and please don't bombard me, people, but I have worked with. Well, I've never been bigger than a micro business owner myself. I've never employed more than 5 staff. But I know that planning things, activities, events, is not always a long-term thing when it comes to independent business owners, especially micro business owners. So if you've got an idea to collaborate and to bring all the business owners in your rural community together, then don't be upset if you go to them in September and say, oh, on the 6th of December, it's Small Business Saturday. If they turn around and say, December, I can't think about December. I've got to wait until we've got half term over with yet. Don't be upset by that. But there are some great examples of where towns and communities have come together. But what often happens is, find a couple of key people. Find a couple of key people in your locality who will become the voice, and get those key people to then spread the word to maybe 5 more people, and then it's the ripple effect, and get them to spread the word. And then you need to come together with maybe 5 key people who can then help keep it going. And that's how, I mean, if we look at Boroughbridge, if we look at Helmsley and the things that they did in Yorkshire last year for Small Business Saturday, it was absolutely fantastic. As a community, they came together, they put on great examples of exhibiting what their businesses did. And there were pockets of smaller communities where these things happened, but bearing in mind that last year was the first Small Business Saturday UK, then it takes a while for these things to happen. People are actually, oops, that's me ruining the whiteboard. People are actually a little bit afraid at times of coming together and getting together and actually what is it that this thing is all about, and especially if it's got political backing and not an understanding of how it can be. But any opportunity, whether it's totally locally, independent retailer runs, Small Business Saturday, any opportunity to give an independent business that chance to shine, for me, is what is important. But what we have to do is we have to remember to continue that collaboration with our customers throughout the rest of the year. Because it's a little bit like the campaign of God is not, it's for life, not just for Christmas. And independent business is not just for Small Business Saturday, it's not just for independent retailing, it's for all different times of the year, all different days. And I think that's really, really important that we do remember that. So, yes, I hope that helps. And if Becky wants any more information, then she can tweet me. Okay.
That's great. Twitter.
Okay.
Open it up to these ones.
Have you guys got?
Obviously with Facebook now, to market yourself, you actually have to pay for it. Is there any other way?
Right, okay.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sorry. With Facebook, you now have to pay to market a business. I'm really interested in a lot of the different social media platforms, and as you know, I've been involved with an organisation called Flock and the development of virtual currency. And the one thing that I've come to understand is the resistance for people to pay for for the services. And I think it comes back to marketing. And in my day when I had my retail business, I used to pay a small fortune to the local paper for putting an advert in. But I think now we've got quite used to, if we're social media savvy, we've got quite used to the opportunity of getting it for free and being able to do it, which is absolutely great, writing blogs, YouTube, all the other different opportunities. My question would be, are your customers actually engaging with that medium of advertising for it to be worth your while to pay? So for me, I have a business Facebook page and I have very few followers, likers on the Facebook page. But I understand the reason for that is actually my usual customers who are only here aren't engaging with Facebook. They're engaging with LinkedIn. They're engaging with Twitter. So I think the problem comes now that there are so many boosted posts. These things have started out where they're free, and actually then you've got to a stage where you've got to pay for them because there's got to be sustainability. And how do you manage to get yourself in there, in amongst the other adverts that are forever popping up? And when that does happen, I mean, I did an example this week with Instagram. So I don't use Instagram as much as I probably could, but suddenly I noticed a sponsored post in amongst it, and it was from a supermarket. Well, I was like, oh my goodness gracious me, I can't even go on this media platform now without getting a sponsored post. So I start to get a bit frustrated. So I would think very long and very hard in relation to setting a social media strategy, and if that's the way you're going to engage with your customers or people that you could collaborate with. Is that the right medium for you to do it? And if it is, then maybe test the water and see if paying has been worthwhile. And if it is worthwhile, continue with it. It's like any marketing strategy. If it's not working, don't carry on throwing money at it, because actually, from a cash flow point of view, that's just ridiculous. And are you better off looking at something like a platform, for example, Flock, where you are paying for it, and you know that that's what you've got to do? Is that going to help? And this is also, it's hard, it's a learning curve, because I actually think social media in the business promotion is actually a learning curve anyway, because it is a relatively new thing for most of us. It's only just catching on, and some may say there are certain parts of the world that it's not even caught on in the same way as others. So I would look at it as part of the bigger picture and maybe test whether it's working and see if it's giving you the return on your investment and if it's allowing you to do what you want as part
7 o'clock, so if you've got any more questions, or do you want to wrap up?
So, it's 7 o'clock. So if you've been sat at home for the last hour, listening to me, I'm really sorry. Go and get yourself a cup of tea or a glass of wine. I would love to thank you all for being here this evening. It's been great. It's been an amazing evening. And as I've already said, if you've got any questions for direct them to Small Business Saturday, Small Business Saturday guys and gals, or alternative, you can tweet me directly. And I do believe that this link will be going out as well. So there's an opportunity to listen again. Thank you, everybody.